Sounds straight.
Welcome to South End Supporters Presents Red versus Blue, your weekly Premier League series. Eric Cole alongside the Monday morning center back Dave Wyckoff. Dave, 4 weeks down. One of us, again, I think this is just going to be, I might as well just almost like save this audio so then I can just save myself from having to say it. But one of us feels pretty good and the other one's still just wondering what the hell's going on. But, you know, we'll get into all that eventually, and I'm sure you'll really reminisce getting into that this week especially. But how we doing tonight? You are looking sharp, my friend. Like I know you said you came from a work event, but I almost feel like this is just you, like managerial. You want to look professional, especially for this episode in particular.
It is a very big and important episode, as you know. This is the result of a work event this evening, and I have had a few cocktails, and I will be talking some trash. But I think more than anything, this attire that we both chosen this evening is reflective of our feelings about our team through 4 games. And if you're watching the YouTube, Eric is wearing a T-shirt and what is that? What is it? Oh, it's a Paul Scholes T. It's a Paul Scholes T-shirt.
I've decided from here on out, I'm just gonna pull a full Liverpool a couple years ago and just live in the past, and I'm just going to reminisce on that. And so,
he said before we jumped on that he really should have enjoyed the heyday of Manchester United a lot more.
I know.
Yeah, but and then my choice of attire reflects an undefeated season, but it's not as fancy as it could be. I could be wearing a bow tie and a tuxedo. But unfortunately, Chelsea have given back some points, but they remain undefeated in the Premier League. So I feel like I think I feel good, but it could be better. How's that?
Honestly, yeah, that's you wrapping that in. Like, yeah, you could have gone a little more formal.
Yeah,
but like,
yeah,
you're right on par.
If they hadn't dropped points. If they hadn't dropped points against I feel like they dropped points against Palace the first week and then definitely dropped points this week. But if they hadn't dropped points and if they were sitting at 4-0, then yeah, I might have gone with a tuxedo with a bow tie.
It's scary to think if we ever get another win again, what I'll show up wearing. Jesus, like I might go rent a tux at that point. Have you seen the viral fan that's going around right now that he started it last year, but so one of the most famous like United fan page YouTube's podcast that's out there, it's called the United Stand. And so this guy decided, I can't believe he said it, but last year at some point he said he's not cutting his hair until United win 5 in a row.
Yes, you told me about this guy, so that's the reason I know about him.
I believe. Yeah, and I told you how long ago, and I believe he's on day like 300 and something at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm just glad that I never came up with that idea, but like that dude is never cutting his hair again. Like,
not at this point.
Shout out with like 3 in a row, something crazy like that, but dude,
yeah,
power to him.
He needs to move the goalposts to like three games, 3 games with a result. Is what he needs to move it to, for sure.
I think 3 games fielding a full 11.
Yeah.
Let's really bring him down at this point.
3 games fielding a full 11.
What? Yeah. Let's just get into the weekend. What kind of stood out to you over the weekend?
I mean, the biggest game was obviously the Manchester derby. That was our big team battle of the week. But I mean, God, what? How can anything other than the Liverpool game like stand out as far as how it ended? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you had some teams look a lot better than expected. You know, Brentford looked better than expected. Bournemouth looked good. Arsenal torched Forest in Ange's debut. Spurs destroy West Ham. But how can the storyline be anything other than Liverpool leaving it late again? And it's so funny that nobody ever seems to think that the same story is going to play itself out. And I texted our group chat. I said, I know that it's coming. I just knew that it was coming. Now, this was pre-red card also, which, it is a second yellow. But, God, does it really have to be a second yellow? Do you have to give them – they've already had all the possession. They've already had all the chances. Do you really have to give them the man advantage at the same time? And then on the pen, yeah, it's technically a pen, but, really? It boggles my mind. They get – this team – and this precedes Arne Slot. This goes back to the Klopp era. This team gets every bounce, every call, everything has fallen their way for what seems like 7 years. And it just keeps happening.
Yeah.
And everyone seems to be surprised by it. And are we the only ones that aren't surprised by it? They're a good team. No. They're not a great team by any means.
Yeah.
They get all the breaks. It's unreal.
Yeah, a couple stats that I have just to break down this season so far. So Liverpool's played 4 games. They've gotten their winners in the 88th minute, the 90th minute plus 10, the 83rd minute, and the 90th plus 5 minute. And then even in this Champions League game, they got gifted.
They did it again. They did it again in Champions League.
I think it was 90th. So, what sucks is as somebody who, I would probably put Liverpool as my least liked team, I'll say, as far as who I consider our true rival. I know there's the Manchester Derby, but I think a lot of United fans would echo that Liverpool is our true rival, not only in numbers of titles, but also as status as who's the biggest club in England and that type of stuff. And it sucks because up until that final whistle blows, as a supporter against them, you just can't ever get excited because something's going to happen. And you did text in the group this week, but it's every week saying something's going to, like you said, bounce their way. And I've never seen anything like it. And it's not, like you said, they are a good team. If anything, it's exposed them to me of they aren't as good as maybe we thought going into this season. I think Verts still is yet to record any sort of stat, and that's a high. And then Isak still hasn't made any sort of debut. But the biggest thing, and you've highlighted this all year on this show, is their defense just does not look like that defense that. There was a stat for a while. It was so prominent no matter where you went about how Virgil van Dijk is just undribbleable. He hasn't been dribbled past for how many attempts and stuff like that. It just doesn't. And then who's their true wing backs? What was it? Kirkez got pulled after 37 minutes or something crazy like that. It's not this lockdown Trent on the right with Robertson during their prime. This is kind of a hey, if you're going to expose Liverpool, it's going to be at the back line.
Yeah. I want to say 2 things about that team, by the way. They're the best team in the Premier League. I don't want to diminish what it is that they've accomplished.
Yeah,
they're the best team in the Premier League. They're the most talented now, especially after going on this spending spree. I do believe they're shaky at the back, but I also believe that they have the best manager in the Premier League. And him taking Kirkez out of that game when he did probably won them the game whenever they removed him, because he already was on a yellow. He was already getting torched, and he had already kind of gotten lucky with a second challenge that on another day could have drawn a second yellow in the first half. Mm-hmm. And then you're talking about them being down a man against Burnley as opposed to them to continuing to hold their feet to the fire. Listen, I think that we've said it before. They put the pressure on the defense. Then you can't take that away from them. The reason that these bounces go this way and the reason that they get these handballs and these late penalties is they are constantly putting pressure on the defense. And if you don't push back, if you want to sit back and play a low block, that's the risk you run. And Burnley found that out the hard way. They had the perfect game plan until they didn't, and until they went down a man. Mm-hmm. And if you're not going to try to create your own chances, if you're gonna bunker in, then you're gonna have to accept the fact that sometimes teams are gonna get breaks against you. So I think against pretty much not any, I wouldn't say any other team, but against that game plan, they were always going to be the ones to control the tempo and the pressure. So we should have seen something like what happened. We should have seen it coming, which we kind of did. We kind of talked about it. But yeah, everybody, all the pundits keep talking about, well, look at what they're doing, and they haven't even been together that long, and they haven't even integrated this guy and integrated that guy. I look at it the other way, man. I look at it as they are not the cohesive unit, and it's going to take a while, and they're kind of there for the picking right now. Now, luckily for them, everybody's kind of going through a new group of players and trying to put together a new cohesive unit. You know, Chelsea, Arsenal, City, you know, they're all dealing with the same thing right now. So they're on top, and there's nothing you can do to take that away from them at this point.
Yeah, that's a great point. If any time that they could be like just really trying to find their stride and I guess getting that cohesive unit, it's right now, because all those teams that will be pushing them as far as in the title race, you're right, are kind of all going through that same sort of thing. So that's a great point. I think, to your point, I think I still have them favored as to win the league. I just don't think it's going to be like last year where it was an absolute done by
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so.
2 weeks to go. I think this is going to be one of those ones that it goes down to the wire. And I think Arsenal could be that team that really is pushing them. They're looking like they're almost settling into that. And you got to think they're also like, I saw a funny video today about it was somebody pretending to be Bukayo Saka and being going up to Midweke and being like, what are you doing? This is my spot. You're not supposed to be playing as good as you are. You were supposed to just be the fill-in guy. What's going on? Because they even have Gyökeres scoring, and I don't think he's been very impressive as far as actual play on the field. He's getting on the score sheet, which at the end of the day is what you ask out of your nine. But I haven't been overly this is the guy that
Yeah, this is the 50-something goal a year guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and again, I think it's something that you really just blew my mind with, and I know I've heard it before, but it just really has resonated a lot this year with what you said was, good teams will find ways to win, bad teams will find ways to lose, and Liverpool just happens to be that team that just still, with that stat of all those, that just shows you with all those 80th minute plus goals that they just find ways to win. Now, whether it's, assisted by, some calls or whatever it may be, at the end of the day, they're doing what other teams aren't doing.
Yeah,
so
they're taking the game to other teams. Until other teams start to take the game to them, then these are the results that you're going to continue to get. Now, their schedule is going to get a lot tougher, obviously, moving forward. But for now, they're on top.
Yeah, agreed. As far as what stood out to me on the weekend, I think it's the other way. It's Aston Villa. A stat that stood out to me that was put out is Aston Villa are still the only team in England's top seven divisions, to not score a goal yet in the 2025 season following a 0-0 draw in Everton.
So they scored today.
One of the things that really,
or they scored yesterday finally.
What in champion?
In EFL Cup. But they lost. But they scored finally. Yeah.
But I mean, that's what was and I know they lost a lot of pieces, as far as loans and all that type of stuff. But I mean, that was such a dangerous offense going forward in the past years. And Ollie Watkins was on fire. You had loanies Asensio and then Rashford. I mean, a lot of these things. And, I thought they still made some decent, additions, but to not score a goal, and then each week you just feel like, oh, they'll get it on. This is going to be a team fighting for Europe, and man, it's kind of getting you thinking, is this going to be a team fighting for Europe, or is this going to be a team that really suffers a big backslide off of not qualifying for Europe and bringing in those. We've talked about this all year so far on this show. Is you have to unfortunately the game has changed so much that you have to spend each year to be competitive, and if you don't, the drop off will be that much harder.
Yep, and they're finding that out. I mean, they're a they're a sizable club, but they're not one of the biggest 5 or 6 in England. So they don't draw and they don't have the revenue to be able to spend. So if they can't retain their talent, then this is what's going to happen. If you can't just produce year over year, this is what's going to happen. I don't think we predicted a major backslide for them. I think you and I probably thought they would still challenge for top 8, and they very well still could. But no results in 4, and that's really hard to overcome. That's bottom of the table stuff. That's bottom 5 stuff. Yeah, I don't know. The good news for them is they have drawn twice, even though they haven't scored yet. So I think there are better days ahead, and their schedule hasn't been crazy friendly. Brentford,
Newcastle,
Brentford at Everton, against a better than advertised Palace team, and then at Brentford. I'm sorry, they played Brentford twice now, both at Brentford. That was one was in the EFL Cup on Tuesday. But yeah, against Newcastle, at Brentford, against Palace, and then at Everton. It'll get better for them. But I think we have to temper our expectations as far as them being a top 8 team.
Yeah, agreed on that. As far as Slayers of the weekend, for me, it's I got 2 in here. I got Zubamendi and then obviously Haaland, both with double kills on the weekend. I just thought Zubamendi had some fantastic goals and just played fantastic in that Arsenal game for Forest. Same with Haaland. It was just what you expect out of Haaland going into this year is he's just going to always be that dude that you just, you have to fear him as far as if you're going to beat City, you got to be up by multiple goals because he's always just going to be a threat. And then I think the biggest thing that really helped him in that game is Phil Foden kind of really found his old form and just played as, fantastic as well. That I feel like where Haaland really shines is when there's one other player. He just needs one other player to have themselves a game as well, to where it's just somebody gets a little bit of attention away from him. Because if somebody else in the attacking third is getting a little bit of attention, you have to. It's like dominant Shaq back in the day. You have to almost double team him, or else it's not a fair one-on-one. And I thought, those two just. Not only just because they got double kills on the weekend, but they just also backed up their performance phenomenally. So to me, they were my Slayers of the weekend.
Yeah, those are 2 good shouts. I will throw in Lucas Bergvall from Tottenham with a goal and an assist. I'll throw in Moises Caicedo because I thought he had a really good game, even without the absolute piss rocket that he hit when he scored his goal for Chelsea. That dude comes out of nowhere with some absolute missiles.
He does. Do you feel like he's finally living up to that price tag that you paid for him? He's really been on form so far. At least so far.
Yeah, I think, and I'm not gonna say that he's exceeding it, but I don't think that when they originally bought him, they saw him being part of the offense. And from what I've seen through the first 5 games so far this year, he's got some skill, on the ball skill. Now he's never gonna be, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard. He's never going to be that you never confuse him for a number 8. He is a tried and true number 6, but his dribbling has improved, his distribution has improved, his offensive awareness seems to be he's got the potential to be like N'Golo Kante, but with a threat to go forward. He will pop one from 20 and he will be a threat from out that far. So
he reminds me of is maybe not as well. He is very physically just like Michael Essien. He's more bought in as a central defender, but there were times when he would hit one from far.
Yeah,
just
I think Essien. I think Essien was probably more offensive and less defensive than Caicedo, but I like the shout in terms of physicality. Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's got to be a good feeling for you guys because last year, at least early on, people and that's got to be such a pressure for a player coming in with such a big price tag. Is if you don't hit the ground running, all of a sudden people are going to be, questioning whether they were worth spending that money on.
Yeah, I mean,
and he did struggle in Chelsea for a while, but he's really coming to play. And that partnership seems to be working with him.
It's a weird. It was a strange signing in that you paid so much money for a guy that you really didn't expect to contribute in terms of offense. At least not in my mind. Like, this is your sixth. Like, the last time Chelsea had the success that they wanted to return to is when you had the best defensive midfielder in the world in N'Golo Kante, and he was not an offensive player. He was a Hoover vacuum, man. Like, he played next to number 8s that they went forward, and he was essentially a third center back to play in front of your center backs. So for him to start to show up on the score sheet now, I don't think anybody would have seen that coming. So good on him. For sure.
Which has got to be a great feeling as a Chelsea fan as well, because when you do lose somebody who's been just such a staple and at the top of their game as Conte was for you guys, I mean, the worry of then the drop off in that position is always like super high. But I do always that's got to be the one player for sure out of Chelsea that I just never could hate. Like, you could never hate.
Yeah, he was a gentleman.
With a smile on his face.
Yeah, he was a gentleman of a player.
I think he drove like a Fiat or a Kia every day to practice. Like that type of chauffeur. Like, I remember he showed up to a France international training one day late, and he was like, "I'm sorry, the train was late." And the coach was like, "What are you taking the train for?" He's like, "Plus, you could have ran faster than the train." And it's just like,
guy.
That's the humbleness that he always brought.
And he won everything. That's what people, not to make this the N'Golo Kante hour, but he won everything. World Cup, Premier League, Champions League. Like, and I guess Euro, right? Because France won a Euro when he was there too. So, yeah, and he won a Ballon d'Or. How do you win a Ballon d'Or when you're or did he win a Ballon d'Or? He was I think he won a Player of the Year.
He was I think he won he was included in Team of the Year.
That's what it was.
In Team of the Year.
I thought he won Premier League Player of the Year, the one that Chelsea, the year that Chelsea won. Not Ballon d'Or.
He might have won Player of the Year.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. But to even be in consideration for a Ballon d'Or at the 6 is pretty wild to me. Like, because you're not contributing meaningful, like, counting stats, and that's what those things have always been built on. But no, good stuff, and good things from Caicedo.
I know this will get way off topic, but I feel it's worth. There was a discussion that's been going around here the past couple weeks. It was brought up, I believe, on Stick to Football podcast with like Gary Neville and Jim Carragher with them. Do you think they should change the Ballon d'Or recognition to only include offensive players? Because their point, similar to what you were just saying, how tough it is to like truly impact the game and be considered the greatest player in the world, it's so tough. Like, I think like Cannavaro from Italy, and I don't think any goalkeeper's ever even been nominated, but like I think maybe Maldini won it, but like it's just such a anomaly for a defender to have such a standout year to win the Ballon d'Or. Do you think it almost should be a consideration? I mean, I don't think it would. They'll never come out and just say it, but do you think as far as like the people voting should only be considering midfielders and forwards?
No, I mean, I think that it's one of those things that you make it open to everybody, and then you just acknowledge that the weight is more to counting stats. I mean, I mean, Rodri didn't make it because of counting stats. Rodri didn't win it because of counting stats. He was a complete player. Like, it happens. You're never going to see a keeper do it.
Yeah.
It'd be nearly impossible. But no, I don't see any reason not to keep it the way it is.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
And I forgot about one more Slayer of the. I forgot about one more Slayer of the week. Voltemade, Big Nick. Scored in his debut. Scored a head ball, and he's not a head ball guy for Newcastle. So the jury's still out on whether or not he is the answer at striker for them. But for 1 week, he did it. So, yeah, good stuff.
I'll tell you what. If you want to confuse defenders that are new to the league, is if they play Gordon and him up top, like they're the same.
Well, one of them
person.
is 6'4".
One's got a beard, one doesn't.
One of them is
That's
6'4". Yeah,
that's the only difference.
did we talk about
Like,
this?
you look at them, and it's
Did we
like,
talk about during the week that we think that he looks like a '90s action movie henchman? I think we might have. He looks like the perfect,
I
like,
remember seeing that in the group. Yeah.
like Bruce Willis or like Mel Gibson would have to like fight him off hand to hand, like on the side of a building or something like that to save a school bus full of children with dynamite like duct tape to the bottom of it or something. And he's got the switch to do it. And yeah, I get those vibes from him.
Yeah, or like a Bond villain or something like that.
Yeah.
And the great thing is he wouldn't even have to change his name. It just fits
Voltamade.
right into like
Yes.
the villain vibe.
It's
and
so
everything.
good.
Yeah, like I mean, it's I can see like Casino Royale 2 stop Voltamade. Like it's going to be on the works coming in the future for sure. But and then before we get into previewing this upcoming week, I guess we have to talk about our teams. I'll go ahead and start so we can get this out of the way quick. Manchester Derby, United lose 3-0. Uninspiring. So here's the big dilemma right now. And 2 points that I want to bring up that's a little worrying. And first off, this team is just bad. They're bad. I don't know what the hell I was thinking about 7th or 8th. I mean, this team's going to be – I mean, they'll upgrade, I definitely think, from 15th eventually. But this team is going to be, an 8th, 9th, at best. Just not – I mean, my worry is I'm very much in nowadays you just got to stick out your manager. We can't keep doing this circus of turning over the manager every, half a year and expecting any different results. My problem is Amram is so committed to his system, and he's come out and said multiple times, I'm not going to change my system. I'm going to play my way. When you're down 2-0 and 3-0, and you just think bringing on personnel that you deemed not good enough to start the Manchester Derby. So technically you're looking at as weaker players from what the starting 11 you put out, and you're putting them in the exact same system that's just getting run on. Where are you expecting change? I'm all for, like, if you want to start the game with your system and you want to run it. But you have to be willing to adjust to how the game is going. And he's not willing to separate from that 3-4-3. He's not willing to, vary off from it. And that's my concern with him is, like, I think what separates good managers, and I do want you to stick with your guns. If you truly believe in your system, you believe it's successful, stick with it. But you have to be able to, as a good manager, and I think he just got outclassed by Pep in this one, is read the game. Where can you make adjustments? How can you switch them up? How can you not go to a back four because the back three just isn't working? Luke Shaw had one of his worst games all year, or ever. Switch to a back four and then try and, incorporate. I mean, it sucks that Kobbie Mainoo keeps coming off the bench, and every time he comes off the bench, he's our best player on the field. Why? I don't know what this gripe is that but then now I'm seeing Pep put out today that he's interested in bringing him in January. Jesus Christ. Could you imagine if Kobbie Mainoo goes to,
my God,
City and then goes on to fulfill his potential?
Your head would explode.
That would be the biggest. Oh my God, I couldn't even imagine because I love Kobbie Mainoo. And so many former, Paul Scholes being one of them, came out in an interview and he was like, he's miles ahead of where I was. If he gets the game time and develops, he's going to be a fantastic player. All these people are seeing this potential in him. And then when he's on the field, he's showing said potential. Like, why is he not getting in? And I know you're trying to say he's playing behind Bruno or he was playing behind Mount when he's on form. But, like, if you adjust your system and make it work to where you fit, again, I think I'm seeing too many comparisons to, like, Olaf for City, where they're just so married to what they think will work that they're not willing to adjust from it to make what's going to work best on the field. And then the last problem I really have is I'm not sure if he wants to be here. I think he's realizing that the job is way more than maybe he's entailed, because in these press conferences he keeps alluding to, like, the fact of, like, almost like he's trying to get let go.
Yeah,
like,
it's a weird
things like it was like post game, he's like, I'm not going to change anything, or I'm not going to change any of my ways. I stick with my ways. If the club wants to change the ways, then they can change the man. And then earlier in the year, he made some comments as well, alluding to like, well, if the club doesn't want me here, I'll go without pay. It's like, God, man, just show up to a press conference.
He's like daring him. He's like daring him to fire him. Yep.
Yeah, and God, I would too if he's got a $12 million payout that's coming his way, and now there's rumors of him going back to Portugal, and it's just like I want my manager to get in there, still be fiery, and be like, that wasn't good enough on the day, but I guarantee you next week we show up. Like I just want something like that, not this like. Yeah, I mean, if you don't like what you're seeing, then you'll just have to get rid of me. Like you said, almost tempting them into this. And it's just that's my worry truly with United is like we're going to be stuck in a system that isn't complimenting its players great, because you're seeing it when these players go away. Højlund scores on his debut for Napoli. It's just like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a joke at this point. Scott McTominay was up for a Ballon d'Or nomination for Napoli. And you're seeing these players finally playing in their preferred roles and what they can do with, like I know Sesko's not. He's a player that drives off of crosses into the box, but you're playing a system. They showed Bruno's heat map over the past two managers and today. Majority of his heat map is almost in the defensive half of the midfield.
Yeah,
or in the field. Like you need him up by the box, creating as many things as you can. You need wingers that are supplying in crosses, but we're not getting that, and it's not alluding to what you paid all this money for. And then there's rumors that Amorim didn't even want Sesko. So it's just this, like, it's this complete, like, I don't know, joke on the field. But to me, it's just even more depressing when it's just like there's already being discussions of, like, he's got performance. It came out today that he's got these performance things that must be hit or he's gone. And it's like, well, and then, like, even the pundits today were saying, well, who are you going to bring in? Like, who's going to come in right now that's available that is going to do anything? Like, there is nobody. And so it's going to be a long season. It's going to be a long season. And it just sucks that I don't right now see things progressing or getting any better.
Yeah. So I got a rhetorical question that you don't have to answer first. When has it ever worked where somebody was so hard-headed that they did not alter the system they were playing to match the talent on the team? And you don't have to answer that one because it doesn't work. It doesn't.
The thing I'm tired of seeing is like everybody saying like Pep needed a couple years, Klopp needed a couple years. But the thing with those two managers is they adjusted to the game. And then they went back to their system when the thing is, I saw somebody come out is like, I'm all for you playing your system, but at the end of the day, you got to get some wins.
Yeah,
you got to get some wins.
Why?
However you get them.
Why would you have these players? Why would you have signed off on these players? Why would you put them on your game day roster if you're not going to use them to their biggest strengths? That seems asinine to me. That to me is more indicative that he is trying to force their hand to fire him. The fact that he's willfully kind of sabotaging his own career by doing these things. But like I said, that was rhetorical. You didn't have to. I do have a handful of stats because I was listening to Guardian Football Weekly this morning, and they were talking about United and how United is actually one of the better offensive teams in the Premier League through 4 games.
I've seen
I didn't believe it.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I didn't believe it. I'm like, I've watched most of their games. I've watched probably 3/4 of their 4 games, and I don't believe it. But I will tell you right now that they are one of the in terms of the chances that they have created, in terms of going forward, there is major upside from where they are right now, sitting in 14th. I don't believe them to be nearly a 14th place team. Expected goals, you know how we feel about XG, but there is something to this. XG, Manchester City, first place, 8.5. Manchester United, 8.3. Chelsea, 7.9. Would you consider Manchester City and Chelsea to be elite offensive teams?
Yeah, this year especially, yeah.
Liverpool. Would you consider Liverpool to be an elite offensive team?
From 80th minute on.
Liverpool's XG is 6.1. So, again, XG doesn't translate to anything on the field, but these are all indicators, right? Shots on target per match. United are 6th. Chelsea are top with 5.5. Manchester United are 6th with 4.5. Big chances, which we don't know exactly what a big chance is. We have a feeling it's a high XG chance. Yeah. Chelsea are 1st with 14. United are 9th with 8. Same number of big chances as Liverpool. Big chances missed. United are 7th with 6 big chances missed. Accurate long balls per match. United, 32.8 accurate long balls per match. Accurate, that's number 1 in the Premier League. Accurate crosses per match. United are number 1, Eric. 6.5 crosses per game. United is number 1. What else do we have in here? Penalties awarded. This one may be the most telling. Touches in opposition box. United are number 1 in the league. They're ahead of Liverpool. They're ahead of Chelsea. Number 1 in the league. Touches inside the box. So the chances are being created. The goals haven't necessarily come in an avalanche yet, but that'll come in time. But a team that creates that much offense, that's not a bottom half team. All right. Now, it might not be a top 6 team, but that's not a bottom half team. So I see the improvement. I can watch United and tell you right now that they are a better team. Like I understand from your perspective that it seems like it's more of the same and this team is bad. I don't believe them to be a bad team. I believe them to be a top half team with upside. But how long is Amarin? How long is Amarin going to be around? First of all, because if you take a step back again, then you're talking about maybe trouble. Unless you promote somebody from within and they just say, "Hey, we're going to play Kobe Manu, we're going to play Bruno in an advanced role, and Mason Mount can sit his ass on the bench, and we can ship Casemiro off to frickin' Karabag because he's absolute hot garbage." Like, you might have somebody to come in and do that, and then maybe that's better. But this isn't a bad team by any means, in my opinion.
No, I'm so glad you brought those up because I did see those reported stats and all that type of stuff, and it's so tough when it's your team to actually believe those stats. Because I'm one of those fans where, and this is probably not a good thing, but if we're not scoring or if the other team's just taking it to us like City did, it's hard to see the positives that you are creating in the game because you're just constantly sitting there going there's another missed pass, there's another this. So and I saw that, and it's I don't know whether to be happy about those stats. I think you've brought it to where it's there is I do. I look at this team, and I do think it is an upgrade from last year. There's definitely still
night and day from last year, for sure.
It's definitely still an upgrade from last year. It's just, again, a worry of you're creating these stats. Where could you be improving the game to get off the wins? Because at the end of the day, those stats don't mean jack if you're going for a relegation battle. It's that's cool, but we don't care. Because you can be a team. We saw it with St. Louis City. What was it a couple weeks ago where they had 30-something, 40-something shots? It didn't matter. It's cool to have that stat on your thing, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day if you're not putting them away. It's just, but at the same time, I'm also trying to remind myself that we do have statistically the toughest first 5 games of the season out of anybody in the Premier League. So there is also this thought of, I know you also have the Grimsby stories and you have Burnley where we barely make it out of there. But, at the end of the day, I do think they're, hopefully you get Cunha back, which I think will be a huge
major boost.
Finishing off those chances or just creating chances within the offense. Yeah. And, you get a little bit of some opponents that are, where you should be for sure getting results, and you're not playing – the Arsenals, the Cities, and coming up the Chelseas. I think it'll eventually be there. It's just going to be how long is it going to take, and what is the managerial situation looking like when we get to that point.
Yep.
But
Yep.
we'll
Agreed.
talk more United here in a little bit. How are you feeling about your performance on the weekend? I know you got the draw and you felt like drop points, but as you said, you're still technically without a loss on the year. I think it was one of those deals where you still came out with something, and I think when it comes to at this point, I won't say a title race, but I will say like a top 4 position. You have to start looking at it as the title race of old, where it's like if you come out with something and you still continue that throughout the year, that's what makes a top 4 team. I know obviously it doesn't feel that way, but you still come out with something.
It's dropped points though.
Okay with
it's dropped points. I can concede you came out with something in a derby on a week where you tried to rotate your squad out, but you dropped freaking points, and you dropped points because you can't cover a long goddamn throw in. That inspires nothing, because go ahead.
I would like to point out the player that gave up the unmarking on that back post was Garnacho.
Yeah,
so
go
I
figure.
Was smiling the whole time as that blonde-headed prick let that thing go in, and he celebrated the goal as if he had created everything when it wasn't even a direct assist. Like, I hate players that are like that.
No, that's not fair, because he did create that chance.
Team, and you get transferred, and then all of a sudden,
that's not fair.
It was a deflected pass that went back
from
out.
the time that he came into that game, he made a difference on the left side.
I'm going to find any way to complain about that. I'm going to find.
From the time he came into that game on the left side, he found a way to make an impact. And no, you're dropping points, and your weakness and what's going to hold you back from being a real title contender, and saw it again today in Champions League. What's going to hold you back from contending for trophies is your defense, and particularly the center of your defense. Like, it's going to be a problem.
I'm still surprised you guys didn't do something in the.
Didn't do anything. With conceivably plenty of time, with Caldwell going down like that, conceivably plenty of time, and I saw rumors that they made a big offer going after Gahey. Well, you don't need a left back, man. You got Cucurella. You don't need a left back. You need a center back. But it is what it is. I mean, they're undefeated, but it feels like it should be more. And that's kind of the story of having a young team with a lot of players. Listen, I am still super stoked about the upside of this team. I think João Pedro is going to be a freaking star for Chelsea. Like, he does things on the ball, off the ball, that make me think that signing might end up being something that wins them some serious hardware at some point. And, you've got pieces and you've got a really talented team going forward, and Cole Palmer seems to be back in one of his grooves. So very optimistic, but disappointed in dropping points, man. Because at the end, when you get to May of next year, those drop points are going to matter. The margin for error is so small between the top 4 and being outside the top 4.
No, you're right on that. It's. I think the other thing that's been hindering you guys a little bit, both in the league, Champions League, and all that type of stuff, is certain players that sometimes truly win you games, like Neto or I'm drawing a blank on others, but like they're up and down. And Garnacho was that for us with United, and it seems like he's been a little bit more consistent just in the few appearances he's had for you guys. But like, it can't come down to if Pedro, or last year it was the same with Palmer, like if they don't perform, points are dropped at that point. You kind of need, one of those, everybody's on the same thing. I think, like you said, the defense is going to be a big, issue. But if the defense is an issue, you need that offense to, always be consistent, at least whether it's Neto or whoever comes in for them, you need that. And I think that's where it kind of let you down. And also just a little bit of, it was just lackadaisical goal defending that late in the game. You got to see it out. And like you said, it's drop points, and you just, at the end of the day, hope those don't come back to kind of haunt you. So we'll start to transition into this upcoming weekend. A couple good kicking right off, honestly, with a big team battle, whether it's a big team versus a big team or not. This is a big team battle every time it happens. It's the Merseyside Derby with Liverpool taking on Everton. Now, Liverpool is going to be at home, so they'll be at Anfield. So that seems to always be, it feels like the trajectory of who comes out in that derby with, the majority of the points on, whether it's because it seems like every time it's at Everton, you get they pull it out somehow. Or you're just thinking like they're in a relegation battle. How are they going toe to toe with the champions right now and taking it to them? But like I always get it sucks that it's a 6:30 a.m. start. Like I feel like this should have been a prime time spot game. But how are you feeling? It's not like Everton's really lighting the world on fire, but they are starting off definitely a lot better than they are last year. What do you think? I mean, Liverpool's defense has been shaky. They're the last-minute, saviors. Do you think Everton could go there and to Anfield and pull off the upset?
Yeah, especially with Liverpool conceivably having to rotate with the Champions League this week. And, again, they did it again.
No, that's a great point.
Freaking did it again this week with Champions League. They had to dig it out at the end of the game against Atletico. So, that's mentally and physically taxing at some point to keep having to take these games to the very end. And you can only go to the well so many times. And Atletico Madrid is a very physical team. Those games are always really stressful. Anfield is always the X factor. So Liverpool obviously have the edge in a vacuum and a game at Anfield. But Everton are the rested team, and they're a confident team. So it's a derby game, man. Liverpool are going to have all the possession. Let me ask you this. So if this game turns into the same type of game they played against Burnley, which Everton aren't going to bunker up like Burnley, but don't you give Everton a lot better of a chance to slot home like a counter or a set piece or something like that, or Jack Grealish to find some magic and them to get that one goal that they need, and then to kind of sit back and let Liverpool, have all the pressure? I do.
Boy, you want to talk about a player who's found its wings. It's Jack Grealish so far this year with Everton. He's looking like the Jack Grealish from Villa. He just seems to thrive where he's kind of the guy, and he wasn't the guy at City. There were 10 other guys with City and at City where he's the creator, and when you give him that expectation, he seems to thrive off it. I think it's a great shout as far as you are right, those games that just you have to stay on all the way up until the final whistle are so draining. You can't just work the ball around and try and see out the clock and see out the game. They have to stay on it at those full 90 minutes. And we've already highlighted that's 5 games that they've had, including Champions League, where they've had to stay on it those entire 90 minutes, and it is draining. So I'll be curious to see what team do they field going up against Everton just coming off of the Champions League. It is going to be an interesting point now seeing some of these top squads now that Champions League has started to come around, because a lot of them now with this new group play have to kind of prioritize every game because you have to rely on every result. I'm still going to go with the factor of home field advantage. To me, this derby always just seems to be who. Now, honestly, if we pick this on the show, which we don't, I would pick this as a 2-2 draw. I feel like this has the potential of Liverpool saving one later in the game where Everton are riding it out more so than the opposite, where whenever it's at Everton, it's them pulling one out late, some sort of winner and stuff like that. But I mean, this one might be one where you have to set the alarm clock to check out, because the way both teams are playing right now, I feel like this one actually is really up in the air. Yeah.
Liverpool have won the last 4 Premier League games where they hosted Everton. So it's always a close game. I mean, it's never been in the last 4 years.
Always.
It's never been a margin greater than 2-0. If it's going to be if it's going to be anything, if they're ever going to snap this funk that they've been in at Anfield, it's going to be this game, because Liverpool are ripe for the picking right now. It's the perfect time. It's the perfect situation. Everton are on the upswing. Liverpool is shaky at the back. Yeah, but I still think it's going to be Liverpool, that being said.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. Kind of an off, on topic question, but do you think over the past 10 years there's been a more exciting derby game than the Liverpool Everton as far as like competitiveness that
North
you know
London.
is going to always show up and
North
live up to
London.
the hype?
It's Arsenal. It's
still
Arsenal
think
and
North
Tottenham.
London
It's North
has
London.
it?
It's just it's physical and it's hateful, and now you're gonna have player versus players getting snaked by the other team this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Eze. Yeah, it's North
Yeah.
London for sure for me anyway.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree with you on that one. Speaking of that North London rivalry, our next game coming up is going to be Brighton at Spurs, or excuse me, Spurs at Brighton. Has interesting because Brighton's been a solid team so far this year. Results may not have reflected it, whereas Spurs, great results, but still pulls a Spurs move every once in a while in like their traditional sense. But it's tough almost going against Spurs in form right now, and Brighton not necessarily kicking off the way they are. But again, I could see this one going down to the wire and being a close draw sort of game.
Yeah, Spurs with a midweek Champions League win in a game they didn't really play that well against Villarreal, but they did pick up a win. They're going to rotate their squad probably a little bit, so it'll be maybe a little bit of a bench squad. Brighton coming off a loss against Bournemouth last week at home, they're a better team. Yeah, I think again it's a Spursy moment, right? Like they're kind of riding high. Why wouldn't this be a week where they drop a decision?
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Thomas Franks, he's just a better manager than they've had in a long time. I think he knows how to rally the troops, and he knows his personnel. So I will give the edge to Spurs in this one. But again, we're not picking draws. But if I had to pick a draw, this one's got like a 1-1 draw written all over it to me.
Yeah, 1-1 for sure. We've got Burnley and Nottingham Forest. One team we predicted to be low, one team that is low that we weren't necessarily predicting. Ange Ball is back, but it seems like it's a lot of people were poking fun that, Ange Ball is truly back with their performance that they had earlier in the week. But I think Burnley's, honestly, if I'm looking at it, has seemed almost the better team so far this year. I mean, they took United up until the end where we got, lucky with the PK. They ran Liverpool up until the late minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at home, could that favor them? Nottingham Forest just not really looking, like Nottingham Forest this year. I'm almost going to give the edge to Burnley on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if Ange got the international break. He didn't get the international break to work with the team, so this is his first full week to work with that Forest team. Ange Ball is high pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Is that enough time to kind of implement your system? You pointed out, he's the one that said I win in my second year. Burnley kind of, both of these teams are kind of getting to the point where it's like you need to kind of define what you are. Are you going to be a relegation battle team, or are you going to challenge for top half? I'd give the edge to Burnley as well.
Does Nottingham Forest have Europa? Or they were the ones that got bumped out for?
Yeah, they're in Europa. Palace is in
right?
conference, and Forest is in Europa.
So is that starting? It wouldn't have started today.
No, they did not have Europa this week. They lost yesterday. They lost their EFL Cup game yesterday to Swansea. In a really late, two stoppage time goals. They were up 2-1. Yeah, they were up 2-0 and then 2-1 going into stoppage time, and Swansea put 2 in stoppage time.
That was where everybody said, Ange Ball truly is back because they were up 2-0 and then lost 3-2 at the end of it. So, I think I'm gonna give the edge to Burnley on this one.
Yep.
during that same time, we've got West Ham, Crystal Palace. West Ham is at home, but West Ham is just a dumpster fire. So
they're a mess.
Really struggling. Can't seem to get it together. And then you just look at Graham Potter, and you're thinking, like, what? The downfall of Graham Potter has been truly, strong. Palace really, honestly, for all they've lost this year, still look very competitive as far as, like, they'll put up a good fight in any game. I don't really look at West Ham, especially in that stadium. I know it's going to hold a lot more and all that type of stuff, but I'm going to go with the way form has been going. I'm going to go Crystal Palace on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this might be the end for old Graham Potter if he takes a beating this week at home. I think Graham's going to have a tough time maintaining his job if they don't get a result this week. They've given up 11 goals already through 4 games. That's the most in the Premier League. They've got to change the way they're doing something. They're not a club that goes out and makes big additions, so they're going to have to be more tactically and they're tactically sound, and their system's going to have to be more of a conservative system. This just isn't sustainable for them. So, and I don't know. This might be the end to old Graham Potter in the Premier League. Maybe he bumps down to the Championship this year, but yeah, I'm not feeling real great about his chances this week.
Maybe St. Louis City should be sending an email his way and let him know that, maybe he could handle the MLS better than that. But
it's a tough league.
Yeah,
tough league.
Championship money would still be much better than what MLS could offer for him. Then we've got a battle coming up of what I believe are going to be a relegation battle towards the end of the year. We've got Wolves taking on Leeds. Wolves at home. I think that's the tipping point in this one. I think Leeds has been – Leeds is always going to be Leeds, where they'll show up and get a win, or they will be just absolutely destroyed on the night. Wolves, 2 losses in their last 3. Both teams, 2 losses in their last 3. Leeds at least coming off a win, whereas Wolves coming off a loss. Do you give the factor in home field advantage? This has tie written all over it, and maybe I think this is going to be one of those games where it should be a boring game, but it'll be like a 3-3 draw just because both teams just give up goals.
Would love to see that. Did you see the 4-4 draw between Juve and Dortmund yesterday? Oh my gosh, that was wild.
I'm so pissed that I didn't choose that game to watch because I chose the Madrid Marseille game. I should have chose that one.
Oh, you got to go Golazo. Like, pro tip for anybody watching Champions League during the week on Paramount Plus. You go Golazo show, because Golazo show will jump into every game for every goal, and then you can decide, okay, this game is batshit. I'm going to go watch this one. So yeah. That would be great if it turned into that game. I just don't think Wolves have that kind of firepower to go 3-3 like Leeds do, just because
that's what it is.
Leeds do just because they are absolutely insane. And I think they're the more talented team here. I don't know. Wolves just, God, do we really have to pick this game? Like, I don't want to watch this game. I don't want to think about this game. Leeds are just not not a great team away from home. So I guess it's Wolves.
One goal. Yeah, Leeds have got 1 goal so far this year, and Wolves have got 2. This doesn't have the writing as far as being
not so much
a top drawer as far as scoring goes. But I guess you're right. It's just kind of one of those maybe we'll leave this one open just so that way anybody comes back and be like, I can't believe you picked them. It's just I didn't pick them.
I'll give Wolves the home field edge.
Right.
Give Wolves the home field edge, and then when it's a 0-0 draw, we can not pick draws. Yeah.
What has the potential to be a pretty decent game going in here is Fulham at Brentford. Fulham at home at Craven Cottage. Small atmosphere, but always lives up to the hype. 11 taking on 12, so you got close within the table right now. Fulham just hasn't so far this year like shown me what I know Fulham is fully capable of, and I know it's coming. Could Brentford be that team to finally, is this where, Brentford show what they've lost and Fulham shows what they're capable of in their year? I know they've also been trying to work in back injuries and getting, their full starting 11 starting. I'm going to lean more towards Fulham just from what I've seen so far this year. I think they have the bigger capability in these types of matches where it's just kind of like, I'll say like a lateral competitiveness, we'll say, not like a team playing up or a team playing down. I feel like they're both even keeled on themselves, obviously, where they're at the table. I'll give the edge to Fulham being at home on this one.
Brentford with a midweek penalties win over Villa on Tuesday. They were at home for that game. They had the big draw against Chelsea. Maybe a little bit of an adrenaline dump, an emotional high, sort of a trap game for them on the road. They've got United at home on Saturday, September 27th. So it makes sense for me for Fulham to win this game. However, Brentford have a big road win already this year over Bournemouth. Maybe not in as hostile of an environment. Maybe not as hostile of an environment as Craven Cottage. But they've also gotten boat raced 3-1 by Forest at the City Ground. So I want to say Fulham. Everything logical points towards Fulham, but I saw in that Chelsea game that there's no give up in Brentford. So give it to Fulham, probably maybe like a 2-1.
Yeah.
Maybe like a 2-1 game, a 1-0 game, something like that. But I think Fulham are probably the better squad.
Yeah. Yeah, this is going to just be one of those back and forth, not super high scoring games. Somebody maybe pulls it out, but definitely two even keeled teams. I definitely would say agree on that. We'll make our way to Sunday, which, Bournemouth flying high so far this year. I believe they're sitting currently in Champions League position. Yeah, sitting in fourth. So, obviously had a flyer of a start coming out. I don't see this team being one of those teams that maintains that. I think it's the early team run. Newcastle definitely struggling so far this year, not really gotten going. Obviously, the whole offseason drama, Isak leaving, all that kind of kicking their way. It's tough to say because this could for sure be the game that Newcastle shows up for, kickstarts, what they could potentially be, and gets things going. I think they lost pretty bad to Barcelona today in Champions League, so they did have a Champions League, game midweek and all that type of stuff. But man, this is a tough one for me to go off of because honestly, this whole weekend is really a lot of really going to be good matchup games. But Bournemouth with their form at home. Maybe they continue this going, Newcastle midweek game, Champions League, all that type of stuff. I could definitely see Bournemouth getting a result here.
Yeah, I'm with you. Newcastle lost 2-1 to Barca, but one of their goals was right before stoppage time. So it wasn't really like they were in the game. The numbers are a little skewed. But they're going to have to rotate their squad somewhat. I mean, you can't run these guys into the ground with them being in Champions League. So I give every edge to Bournemouth here. I mean, the only blemish on their record is that loss to Brentford. So there you go. So yeah, I think they keep it going. They don't have any European commitments to worry about. They're kind of grinding it out right now. Bournemouth. We know we talk about like Tyler Adams more than anything in Bournemouth's midfield, but they've got another English midfielder that has been playing really well, and I can't remember his damn name right now, of course. But they're just a solid team, man. And I think that they have every chance to go and win this game. It's Alex Scott who is threatening for playing time in that English midfield. He's only 22, so yeah, I will gladly pick Bournemouth for this game.
Yeah, that'll be a good one to watch, honestly. Kicking off Sunday. Next, we got one where it's a high-flying up-and-comer so far, taking on a struggling, what should be, solid team. Sunderland taking on Aston Villa at the Stadium of Light. We've highlighted that quite a bit throughout this year of how great of an atmosphere and how great of a place that can be to play. It's tough for me to think that this run that Villa's on just keeps going. I just think talent-wise, Villa should be well and away above Sunderland. I know the atmosphere is going to be great. I just have a weird feeling that this might be the game that Villa, not that they're going to, run away with it and blow them out of the water, but I feel like they obviously get on the score sheet, which is going to be a big thing for them. But I see this being maybe the game that, and to your point, you've said this a couple times this year, eventually there's going to be a game where you have to realize it's this or we're just cooked for the year.
Yeah.
I see this being one where it's maybe not necessarily a high profile opponent, but it is an opponent where you know you're going to be going into a hostile atmosphere, but you show up and that's where you're like, all right, lads, we did it in one of the toughest places in England. Here's where we kickstart things and get going, and I feel like they're going to show up for this one.
They're going to show up, but they're going down. Sunderland have won the only 2 Premier League games they've had at home this year, and one of them was against Brentford, who were a far and away better team than Villa. I think Sunderland at home. I'm not going to say fairly easy because I think Villa have to start playing a little more open at some point because they got to score some damn goals. Mm-hmm. But I think this is a Sunderland game all the way.
Well, I won't be able to text you positively for our game, but I'll text you for that one. I told you, this is Villa all the way up the Villa. And then finishing off Sunday with the big team battle coming in, Arsenal taking on Man City. Arsenal at home. Man City looked it's against United, so who can tell if, they're back or not. Obviously, both teams dealing with Champions League midweek, so you can't really use that as a deciding factor on this one. Obviously, I think Arsenal has definitely looked the better of the teams between the two so far this year, but I love what you highlighted earlier on is a lot of these big teams, when you bring in a lot of new talent, it's not necessarily going to click right away, and both these teams are kind of picking up their form and getting things going. I'm gonna go City on this one. I think City.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think Arsenal's missing a few more key pieces, and I'm gonna go with I've said this before on the show. I'm gonna go with what striker do I truly fear more at this moment, and if here's gonna be the deciding factor. If Foden plays, and is he in the form that he was in against United?
Yeah. If
Foden, or like I said, somebody steps up throughout that game and draws any sort of attention away from Haaland, that's where I'm going to give City the edge. If it is just a game where they're hoping Haaland has a worldie and gets out of there with a point, I'm going Arsenal. But going into this, I'm going to just assume they maintain that form and they keep things rolling. Haaland on the form that he's in right now, I fear him way more than Gyökeres, so I'm going to actually give City the edge. This could be one where it's a 2-2 draw, or what was that? Was it Arsenal-Liverpool, or who was it where we were like, this has all the potential to be a big team battle, and it was? Mm-hmm. What game? Was that Newcastle?
Yeah.
The
Newcastle-Liverpool
lived up to the hype that we were hoping.
Yep.
I have the feeling this one is going to be like, all right, who's going to go toe-to-toe with Liverpool this year to try and pull out, any sort of title race? And I'm weirdly enough, I'm going to go City on this one.
So I'm going to go Arsenal, and here's why. I'm thinking about the matchups here. So Haaland is on form, absolutely right. Haaland against Arsenal's defense: Calafiori, Gabriel, Mosquera, Julian Timber. Saliba's probably going to be back in that starting lineup at some point. So throwing him, you throw in a really good pair of defensive midfielders like Declan Rice and Zubimendi. I think offensively there's a lot more heavy lifting for City. Now, Arsenal's offense, versus City's defense. Noni Madueke is playing about as well as any right side winger in England right now. Even without really being on the score sheet, he is making an absolute terror of himself down the right side. You've got Gyökeres, who, like we said, we're not super impressed by him, but he does his job as a 9. He puts the ball in the back of the net. And then Eze on that left side hasn't even really found his full form yet with the Gunners. And he's going to be attacking down City's right side. So City's defense significantly weaker than Arsenal's defense. And I would say both teams are off in terms of offensive firepower are pretty even, although in terms of finishing, I'd probably give the edge to Holland. But as an overall offensive group, I take Arsenal. This game's at the Emirates. I'm going to give this one to Arsenal. Both teams coming off midweek Champions League wins.
This is one where,
but I think it's Arsenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's one where, like, I can't say, like, you're crazy with that pick.
Yeah.
Like, it's one where, like, honestly, I should have just flipped the coin and went with that.
Yeah, it can go either way. Absolutely.
I hope it lives up to the hype of. I just hope it lives up to the hype of what it should be.
Yep.
It should be just absolute back and forth brawl between these two. So I hope it lives up to that. And then we skipped over it just because obviously it makes sense. This is what the whole show is based around: red versus blue. A first-time matchup of United taking on Chelsea. This will be actually on Saturday at 11:30, as Chelsea beat United by 2 goals or plus. We'll just go ahead and say that now because that's what's going to happen. It's just going to be I don't see, even though it's at home, Old Trafford, we had Arsenal at home. From rumors I'm hearing, it's back and forth on whether Acuna will be back or not. And even if he is, I imagine it's like a late game appearance. I just think right now Chelsea are more inclined to adapt to the game, change what they need to do, and they're really, I mean, I know you guys just went down to Bayern, but you did have that midweek, whereas United don't have a midweek, but I don't see confidence in these big teams right now for United. It's frustrating. I think, like you highlighted earlier in the show, I think it will come, not necessarily to an extravagant factor, but I do think it will come. But it's tough for me. Like, Chelsea always seems to just kind of show up against us because I always look forward to sending those texts, and I never get to send them your way and Jake's way and my brother's way and honestly everybody's way. I'll text my mom to let her know that United beat Chelsea on the day, but I don't care. But like, I just don't. I'm right now currently with the situation of, does the manager want to be there? Why are some of our players not playing that should be playing over other players? And then why aren't we utilizing our best players in their best positions and all that type of stuff? It's going to be tough. I will preface this as I do see this truly as being a 2-2 draw. I see this being a game where we show up because it's a big team and we play up to our battles, and just the same way we did with Arsenal. I just don't think – I think it's going to be a situation where it's like 2-1 you guys, and Old Trafford carries us through to get a 2-2 draw. But I don't know if I see it to be where United dominate and pull this one out. It could be one where you guys have to heavily rotate because of the Champions League during the week, and that's what edges us in the factor, and also being at home. I just think with the managerial situation, not playing the players the way they need to be, sticking to a system which is going to be easily scouted for you guys as far as like how you do adjust, and you have to just basically defend one style of play. I think, and also as far as depth goes, I think you definitely outclass us there. It pains me, but I think if I can't guess a draw, I'm going to edge Chelsea.
The way that United get a result from this game is to break away from the system. If they try to possess and they try to play tiki-taka, basically, Chelsea are going to run them to absolute death. The way that they win this game, and just the result in general, but the really path to win is just wide open, man. Make it a track meet because they're creating just as many chances as Chelsea is, and let's make it a track meet and let's see who finishes best. That's the only way it's going to go because neither of these defenses are worth a shit. If you try to play slowly through the midfield, Moises Caicedo is going to eat you alive. And the way to neutralize that is to get him running north and south and to get him on a yellow early so he can't be as aggressive. So United, break it wide open, man. Go back 3, go 3-4-3, something nuts like that, and just take it all to Chelsea, just full bore all game. That's the only way that it's going to work, in my mind. I think if they sit back, if Chelsea end up having like 60%, 58, 60, 62% or whatever, they will dice and stir fry United. It'll be 3-1, 4-1, something like that.
Yeah. That's why I said 2-goal advantage. Here's another where I definitely see Chelsea getting the edge on this one. Roy Keane brought it up after the Manchester Derby. He goes, how crazy is it that they lose 3-0 and there isn't in a Manchester Derby and there wasn't a single yellow card dished out between United? Like, you figured if anything, your pride takes a hit and you just start laying in some tackles and you make that a physical game and you live up to the Derby standard. Nobody did there.
Yep.
Chelsea have plenty of players that are willing to make it a physical game, take a yellow, and like ride out the rest of the game. Just your midfield alone, let alone Cucurella, who's going to play all sorts of mind games down that side if he gets the start. That's what worries me also about this team is like nobody's in there to like be up for it. Like Roy Keane used to get a yellow before the game would start in the tunnel. Like he was up for any sort of derby or any sort of big game that led to him. And to come out of there and think like, man, I bet they're shaking hands in the tunnel as they walk down from the like that's a frustrating thing. But either way, I'm definitely going to have to mute the group throughout Saturday until about the 90th plus minute where hopefully somehow out of our ass we pull anything out. I'm gonna text you guys if there's a draw. I'm gonna be like, you guys suck, dude. Like, what are you guys doing? We drew you. What's going on here? So it'll be an interesting one. But anything else you want to add before we get out here as far as the weekend goes, or just
no? I'm excited. It's another full English weekend, so we'll be watching League One, Championship, Premier League, Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A. Did I miss any of them?
No, I think you got them all. And honestly, just if we touched on this a little bit earlier when we kicked off this series, as far as like our buddy Eric O'Donnell, who doesn't have a team, or just anybody who doesn't have a team. Like this could be a real good weekend with a lot of back and forth matchups to watch as a neutral and take in and really truly enjoy on this weekend. So
agreed.
Yeah, we look forward to some of us look forward to this weekend, and we'll probably have the same sign on as we do every year, where it's one of us had a good weekend and one of us didn't. Because truly, this weekend, one of us will have a good weekend and one of us won't, because this is what the show has been based around: red versus blue, Manchester United red taking on Chelsea blue, and we're gonna, no matter what, look forward to hopefully a good game all around. But we appreciate you guys listening. Again, this has been a lot of fun for both of us to get to talk about this Premier League, which we enjoy so much. Well, used to enjoy
sometimes
so much, but it's always exciting, whether you're winning or losing. It's a great league. We appreciate you listening each week for Red versus Blue. My name has been Eric Cole with the Monday Morning Center Back Dave Wyckoff. You've been listening to South End Supporters, and until then, come on, United. Please.
Up the Blues.